join us as they come in. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Corona conference, or care conference, because Corona ain't ruining everything. My name is Tamara Whitney, and I will be both your room host and a presenter this afternoon. It is a pleasure to introduce my co-presenter, Adam Chow, from the city of San Ramon. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Tamara. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing great. I am rocking and rolling. I looked out the window and it started raining about an hour ago, and I was waiting for it to start raining. I'm really excited about it. I really want to get some wet weather. My kids are want to go and splash around in some puddles this afternoon when I get home. When we get home, so there's some exciting things that are going to be happening with this weather. So I'm excited to be able to see the rain today.
It's always a good thing. It's always a good
Always a
thing.
good thing. So, anyways, we're going to get this thing started. So, our session today is 5 things I wish I knew before I became a manager. And the way that Tamara and I came up with this one is that we have had numerous conversations, Tamara and myself, and actually I have with a number of other people in regards to the step becoming a manager. And a manager is a number of different things and a number of different definitions, but for what we've been talking about is really that jump from an non-exempt employee to an exempt employee, when you are supervising those full-time staff. There is a big difference between supervising part-time staff and supervising full-time staff, and the expectations that you have when you are a exempt employee. So what we're going to be talking about today is kind of some of those things, some of the things that we have definitely learned. So this will be a get to know Tamara and Adam and our styles of management and all the things that we have done that have not gone right. And that's really what this session is about, because the best way to learn is from somebody else's mistakes or from your own mistakes. And we're going to give everybody that opportunity to find out all the terrible things we've done in our lives and our professional lives. And you guys can all learn from those today. So let's see, let's do just a little background first. So Tamara introduced us. I'm from the city of San Ramon. I'm a supervisor here. I've been in San Ramon for 15 years now, a supervisor for 6 years. And it's been great. I love working here. This is the only agency I've ever worked for. And so Tamara and I will talk about that in a little bit, of working up through your own agency and the difference of moving over to a different agency. And we have some different perspectives that we'll share with you in that today. And so I'll let Tamara tell a little bit more about herself and her fun things.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. I am Tamara Whitney. I currently work for the City of Pleasanton, the Library and Recreation Department. I've been with the City of Pleasanton for almost 2 years. I oversee, my title is a recreation manager. I oversee public art, our two theaters, the Firehouse Art Center and Amador Theater. I oversee our 60-plus piece public art collection. I'm the staff liaison to the Civic Arts Commission. I also now oversee a library team, a programming library team, and so I currently personally oversee 3 full-time staff, and then there's 9 underneath everybody all together, as well as contract classes. It's fun and it's busy and it's a different experience every day, which is always great. One of the things, and I'm also your room host today as well, so if you have questions or comments, feedback to add to the conversation, go ahead and throw them in the chat or interrupt us. The way that this, we hope, work, Adam is not only a friend of mine, he's also just a really great person in the profession that is a great ear, and you always need a good person who's a good ear that you can get feedback from, or can you tell me if I'm feeling crazy on this? And he's always been that person for me. And so what we'd love to do is just open the door to our phone calls and open the door of our conversations. And if there's something you want to share, if there's an example where you're like, yes, that was my experience, this is how I was able to adjust it. Or if you just need to let something go, bring it to this today. Let's pretend like we've all, that we're not in Zoom, that there's not 42 of us all on the call, even though that is fabulous. But let's try to have this nice group conversation. So this is kind of where we're going to live for today. So if you need to roll out, if this isn't what you're looking for, totally fine, but we're glad you're here and you're here with us. Adam shared that he worked for the same organization. I've worked for 5 professionally. It was City of Los Altos, City of Pacifica, Town of Danville, and City of Pleasanton, so 4, I can count. And that has changed my experiences as well as being at a manager level in a larger city than what I've worked in before, and that's changed my perspective. So that's kind of how we come to the table with it today. One of the items that we always think is important is, kind of as Adam mentioned, that working with full-time staff is different than part-time staff, but it just magnifies and it just intensifies what it is of all the work we've done with part-time staff. When we talk about being a manager, it's really a lowercase m. It's not a capital M as far as the title. You can be a manager if you're a part-timer and you're overseeing other recreation staff that are with you or volunteers that are working with you. So what are those same skill sets that you are using and building up and that you can continue to apply forward in the recreation field?
Yeah, and this topic today is really, I mean, it applies at every level, and I think that's really the key. They're really just skills that will help you, that help throughout your entire career, no matter what level you are, what you're doing. They're fairly generic. I mean, there's nothing advanced here. I mean, really, there's really nothing advanced here.
Nothing groundbreaking.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not at some advanced level of management. I'm still learning every single day, trying new things every single day, come across different scenarios every single day. But the key is that people try and learn every single day, and from every single instance, every single opportunity that I have with my staff, every interaction, what could I have done better? What went wrong? What went right? And that incremental getting better every single day helps all of us in the grand scheme of things, and really helps your sanity in a number of ways too. So that's a key for us. So before we get started, one thing we want to do is we actually want to do a little icebreaker. We want to see who's in the room here with us today. So we got 42 amazing people in this room, and this is our safe space for the next 53 minutes. So what we want to do is just see who we have in the room. So either you put your position title, you can be able to type in the chat how many staff you supervise, part-time, full-time, whatever you want to put in there. We're just trying to get a gauge for who's in our room today, what lovely people we have. So that way we can just make sure that we are tailoring this session to you.
Adam, can I tell you a secret? There are two people who have supervised or are currently supervising me on the call currently. No pressure. No pressure.
You know what?
Previous directors, current assistant directors, teams that I've worked with on the call. That's kind of fun. Hi, guys.
You're very fortunate. I have one of the staff who's actually worked for me in this room. So, he could tell you all my faults right now too. So my buddy
there you go, Troy.
Down there.
So we got a recreation manager. We got program coordinators. Oh, everything's coming in. Rec supervisor. Oh, Chelsea just went exempt in July. Wow, congratulations, Chelsea. Tiffany, recreation supervisor. Shout out D4. Kara's on the call. I told you, it's just like Romper Room. Cameron, hi Cameron, Mission Oaks. Assistant director, recreation student. We got students in here too, fantastic. Tamara's old supervisor. That's great. That's great. Thanks, Henry.
We're gonna use the operative word there.
Angela Newman's on the call. Good morning. Hi, Angela. Thanks for being here. Recreation manager, superintendent. So we've got a really, really great vast of experience. So like we said before, Adam and I are going to start where we are, but we definitely want to hear from your experiences as well, and especially if you've overseen different areas. Troy, recreation supervisor, City of Antioch, 2 full-time, 160 part-timers. Gosh, wow. Okay, here we go. Let's jump in, guys.
All right, here we go. So lesson numero uno. And this is probably one of the most generic terms, is communication. Lessons learned about communication. We're going to kind of go through a whole bunch of stuff. But I think one of the things that I really have learned in my career is that how you communicate with your staff is very important. And I think we all know that. How you communicate with them, what you say to them, how you say it. I think those are all really important things. But the things that I've really learned from my experience really is how do your staff listen, and how do your staff respond to you as a communicator? So as a supervisor, as a manager, we have a lot of direction we need to be able to give our staff. We have a lot of instructions we want to give them, be able to communicate that. And how do you communicate that effectively with them? That's really what this point is more so about.
Adam, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cam.
I was going to ask you what you think your communication style is.
Oh my
Do you,
gosh.
and like, as you're watching this at home, or from your office, what is your communication style? Can you name it?
I
Could you
can't
put
name
it,
it.
could you put it down pen to paper?
I could not. I could not.
No?
I'm all over the place. And I think it depends on the day, the time, what I need to get done. And that's really the key about communication. And I think it really depends on how you communicate, depends on that situation of what you're in and what you need to get done and how fast does it need to get done and all those kinds of things. But the first point I was going to make is that every staff person, everybody has their own communication style and the way that they hear things and the way that they learn things. I know I've had numerous instances where I've told somebody I need something done, and I know in my brain, I know what exactly needs to get done and how I want to get it done. And I just need somebody to do it. But I don't explain it very well. And so, how do you explain it to somebody who is an listens and is an auditory learner as opposed to, writing an email and saying, hey, I need this done. So there's a lot of different communication styles and a lot of communication methods here. And how you able to get from your brain and what it is that you want to communicate and what you want to get done and how you say it to the person who's receiving all that information. And I know all of us in this room have had that instance happen to us. Over and over and over and over again. And this is one of the lessons that I continue to learn and try and beat myself over the head of, how do I get what's in my brain and what it is that I want to get done, and how do I get that to my staff in a way that they can receive it and they can be able to understand it, in whatever situation they're at. Some days they may be ready to listen, some days they may not, some days they may be incredibly busy, and whatever you're telling them is going to go in one ear and out the other.
No matter what you do.
Exactly. No matter what you do, there's always going to be those instances.
The best thing that I think the advice that I was given, and it's really worked well. I went from a supervising a staff of 2 full-timers to now 3 plus 9, but also just a bigger organization, is writing things down through email. So if I call an employee and say, hey, Rachel, hope you're having a great day. I was hoping if you can take care of this project for me, and we chat through those details. I kind of explain what I'm looking for. Great. I finish with, let me send you an email to recap these details. Or, and that way you have it in record, right? It's written out. You know what you asked for. You know the day and the time that you asked for it. Especially right now during COVID, there's so many other pieces moving around that if you don't have these items written down, sometimes it's like, did I ask for that? Was that a conversation we had? Or sometimes the other piece, and it really depends on the employee you're working with, is can you have them, hey, can you go ahead and capture what I said and can you send it back over to me just so we can have a working file to go off of? The communication I have with staff is just really direct. If I need you to do something or I have a vision for it, I will tell you exactly what that vision is. But if I don't, I will say, do what feels right, bring up a couple suggestions and bring them forward over, and then let's take a look at them. I oversee a couple of different projects in very different areas, so contract classes and special events and arts and now library, that there's to always have an idea of what I want it to be sometimes is tricky, but I'll know I like it when I see it. So that's kind of something that I've kind of noticed through this process.
And the other thing that I try and do as well is I try and trust my staff. As Tamara said, give them that leeway, be able to provide that box of say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Let's try and figure out a way to be able to get it done. Because my way may not be the best way either, or the way that I envision it. And I've obviously run across that a number of times. Like, oh, I think this is right. And then the staff comes back and say, no, you know what? You're not right there. And you know what? This would probably be a better way to do it. And having that opportunity to have that relationship with your staff and that conversation, be able to say, you know what? It's okay to tell me no. It's okay to tell me you're wrong. And my staff are lucky enough to be able to say that to me and, feel comfortable being able to do that.
Do you, for those that may still have temporary staff working with them, do you find that you do more communication with them over text or email or phone calls? I remember going to a conference and saying that new rec leaders really liked personal phone calls, not voicemails, personal phone calls to give them the information that they didn't respond to emails. I got email from Chris Talomo, text from Kara. So that's interesting. Is there a way that you can batch them, or is it like individual? Does your city have like a text service that you can text out a bunch of people on your computer, or do you have to like write it out individually? just group for me, or just group text, emails for slightly more important information. I bring that up because when I heard the personal phone calls things, I was thinking about scaling. And if there's one of you, and especially as you do rise, there's this idea of how can you leverage what you do and giving other people the power. So maybe it's a phone tree, or maybe it's you have your recreation staff and you have your senior staff that they're actually responsible for pushing out that information as well. So that way it's not always on one person, or being able to spread it out. But obviously then you hit with the game of, telephone, and things change. Ooh, using and leveraging software tools like when to work or scheduling software. When to work email can send an urgent text. That's great to know.
We love
Very cool.
Windows.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite tools. So easy to be able to talk to our part-time staff and communicate things. And yeah, most of our staff do text. So the personal phone calls, I think it's one of my things. I'm like, I don't have the time to be able to sit down and call everybody and say, hey, I need this or I need this. Only if it's something that I think is really important that would need a phone call. Like, I mean, I don't, most recently it's just covering shifts. It's like, hey, I only have 5 people on staff. I need somebody to cover our front desk. And really there's only 2 options. So I need to beg you and call you and please you to come in. So
there you go. Adam, do you have anything else that you wanted to mention from this one? I see one.
I know we're only on we're on numero uno.
I know we're cruising through this.
I know, and I think the biggest thing about communication for me is just really making sure that you know your staff's communication style, how they receive information, and just think about how you communicate that. And I've run into a number of issues even recently of, providing the instruction, or providing the direction of what I want to do. We're trying to be able to create some program goals and objectives, where the information I've gotten back isn't exactly what I was looking for. So we've gone back in like 5 different iterations, going around in a circle, around in a circle. And I keep thinking to myself, what could I have done better to be able to improve this process? What could I have done to be able to save, the frustration or heartache or, the strain on it? And it's like, well, keep trying to figure out, how to do this better. And I think it's more about make sure that things are written, make sure there's examples provided if need be. Not necessarily doing this through verbal communication, but also that written piece of, I write this thing down, that way we could be able to both be able to reference of like, okay, this is kind of, here's an example, here's what I'm looking for, to be able to help out in some of those communication pieces. But knowing your audience, knowing who your staff are, knowing how they receive that information, I think is the key to communication, and knowing that you can be able to communicate in multiple methods and multiple ways, and knowing the right time and the right place to do everything.
I think one last thing, and then I think definitely we've done a great job with communication, is just walking the talk and leading by the example that you want it to be. If you expect to be communicated with by text, then it's good to respond to the text. Or if you expect to be communicated by email, then it's good to respond to those emails from staff. Recently, in bringing on a new team, I really had to refine and define what my management style is, so that way that team kind of coming in can catch the baton and get on the loop with current staff. It's just a move fast season here at the moment. And one of the employees asked me, she goes, "What's your communication style?" And I had to pause and I had to think. And I said, my communication style is I will generally start my thought in the middle of a sentence. And what it means is, what it really means is, if you've asked me a question, or if I'm coming to you with a problem, or you've emailed me a problem, I probably thought through the question, created a solution, and have moved on to the next piece at this time, just based on where we currently are as an organization in Pleasanton. Doesn't mean, and I shared this very openly, I said, it doesn't mean that I'm not open to new ideas, and it doesn't mean that I'm not willing to slow down. It just gives you a frame of work of that when I make a decision on something, I'm generally comfortable enough that I've vetted it and I'm ready to move on from it. And if you have questions, you have to say, hold up. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm very open to feedback. I'm very open. It's a very, very fluid style of communication within the team. But if you're going to ask me the question of what's your communication style, I start thoughts in the middle of a sentence. So you got to tell me to hold up. And having that reflection on what you expect and how you are is important. If you don't know how you communicate, ask the person who supervises you currently, how do I communicate? What's the best way that you know that I respond? Or how do I respond to you in the right way? Are there things that I should be working on in these areas that you think I can be using? So being able to really leverage that, so you can say, like almost elevator, this is my communication style and this is what I expect, especially right now where things do move so quickly. Any other thoughts, Adam or team? I see a flashing chat.
Flashing chat. We got lots of people in here. Catherine, as a manager, you may need to communicate up the organization more often, and that is definitely true.
Yes.
There's a lot of that going on. Trying to, and I know that there's RJ's got a session tomorrow on managing up, don't you? Up and down. So that's a good one to go check out. There's a plug for RJ right there.
Plug for RJ and Jessica and
yeah, that damn
everybody.
team.
Leah.
They manage Henry all the time.
There you go. Let's chat about knowing your role and what it means.
Yeah, so knowing your role, it's really interesting. So this is one of the things, as soon as I became a supervisor, it's like one day you're a coordinator in my organization. I moved up from within my organization. So one day I'm a coordinator, the next day I'm a supervisor. I was literally doing the exact same thing. Literally doing the exact same thing. And then nobody ever tells you what you're supposed to do. Nobody ever tells you what your role is, what your expectations are as a supervisor, from within at least, when you're moving up. And so one of the keys for me was be able to try and figure out, you know, how do I create myself into this role, and who am I as a supervisor, who am I as a manager? I think that's really important for each of us to be able to kind of develop that that persona, I would say. And you know, what are rules, what are ground rules, and how do I want to communicate with my staff, and what are my expectations for the staff, and what are my expectations for myself and what I'm trying to do. And you know, there's a lot of, you can read through your job description and it can tell you what you're supposed to do, but what you really do in your organization is 100% different. Oh, I'd say 95% different of what it says in your job description. You really, you know, take the bull by the horns and you kind of hit the ground and you run with it. So really trying to figure out what your position is, and create and carve out that role for yourself and develop that, is really important to be able to do. And I struggle with that for a long time. And you know, having conversations with Tamara and other supervisors even within our department, that's something that a lot of people have had that struggle, you know, as they move up, especially within an organization.
When you become an exempt employee in a lot of agencies, or when you go from the supervisor, and I say exempt meaning that you're not hourly, so your role really changes from supporting a program one-on-one or overseeing staff one-on-one, but now you're overseeing multiple staff or multiple programs, and you may be operating in a exempt status where you're not hourly, but perhaps your salary. I always look at it from the lens of the organization. And so why would the organization choose to put an exempt person in this role and in this space? And just like Adam said, where your role may not be always defined, it's in that way for a reason. You are in organizations at that level, you're being hired in as a person with a certain skill set, and you just happen to be in the skill set of recreation or public art. But like me, where my skill set was able to merge over into library because of those transferable skills, it's very similar. Still overseeing programming, I'm overseeing the same full-time staff, I'm overseeing a budget, overseeing a facility, so it would be very, very much the same. And so it's taking a look at, well, what are the exact responsibilities? There are some managers or there's some supervisors where they don't have a direct program that would necessarily roll into them, but yet there's always work to be done. So how does that make sense? And the answer is it doesn't. A manager, supervisor, assistant director are doing the work that the city manager has asked of the department by your department head. And I say that again, the role is to do the work that's been asked by the city manager by your department head. That your city manager or town manager has been asked by council and how your direction comes. It's important because at this level, your role becomes about managing your staff and making sure that they are doing their roles and programs are running well and budgets are operating nicely. But then the other part is to make sure that your assistant director, your director are shining in the lights of the city manager and being held up in the eyes of the community, so that the program areas that you are overseeing are falling in line with the guidelines that are currently set in place, or the expectations that are set in place. If there's community feedback, or if there is a way that you're wanting to if the community is giving you suggestions for how those programs come, and they happen to come in a suggested way, perhaps by social media, it's important to understand that your role now is really to focus in on the community and help and support what they need, so it aligns back up to what the city is able to provide. I hope that makes sense. But at the end of the day, the role of a manager and supervisor is to help uphold the staff above them and make them look great as well. Your role often, because I moved through so many different agencies, but I went to my previous agency as a supervisor, and then I went to the next agency as a manager. I did not know where the bathrooms were for 2 days. 2 days, no offense, Leah. But when you, no matter where you start in a new agency, wherever you are, whenever you come in, does not matter your role, you are, as Andre Pitchley said from the city of St. Helena, the dumbest person in the room. The people who work with you, the people who have been with the agency for a long period of time, have that tribal knowledge and the reason why we always do it this way. And it's okay for that to sound like nails on a blackboard, but when in actuality, you have to know why we always do it this way if you ever want to change it, because you also have to gain the rapport if you ever do want to make those changes. But there's a reason why certain things are always done in that way. Perhaps there's a council member who has a vested interest in this, or a council member that doesn't, and it's just too political to change. And so having that understanding of when you come in from the outside, it's to match the tone and the rhythm of what that agency is doing, so you can have an idea and how to best assimilate what that culture is. No matter how much research you do about that organization, no matter how much you do your one-on-ones and you read your reports and you listen to council meetings, the culture is not something that you can really feel unless you're sitting in that chair surrounded by your staff.
Yeah. And Tamara, you make some really good points there about, what it is to be an exempt employee, and really that role that you have, and that strategy, that planning, that I think that's really, really important to be able to think about, especially, as you strategize to how to get things done and how do you want to make changes or how you're going to do programs. That's really the crux of where this management level is, this middle management especially. And I think that's something that, one of the things that I struggled early on with, to be able to strategize. If any of you have done the Clifton Strengths, strategy is actually one of my lowest strengths on there. And that was one of those things that I had to learn to be able to boost up the chain within this position. And as we work with different community organizations and we work with our own staff, and how do you strategize to make them better or make programs better or make our community better? What are those things those steps that you need to do, and take assessment of how we're doing things to be able to get them to improve them. So
Hey,
that
Adam.
definitely crux right there.
Adam, we've
Tamara.
got a lot of managers, assistant directors, and directors on our Zoom. I want to just give you all some space to see if there's, even if you want to speak, we would love to have another voice in the room, but is there something else that you recognize, especially coming in at that higher level, that knowing your role or seeing this coming in at this higher level of an agency that either resonates, or maybe there was something that actually didn't resonate as much, that you can find a way to share, especially perhaps if you're moving from one part of the state to the other and needing to reconcile some of those pieces too. I just want to make sure we're giving space for everybody, knowing that this is, our big living room conversation, the big one. Did you know it takes 11 seconds for folks, when you ask a question, to realize that you've asked a question, to have their brain stop and then think of a question? So that is always why we do this awkward 11-second wait.
I always count, actually. I think it's actually entertaining to see how long it takes for people to respond.
I got one. It's lonely at the top and all eyes are on you. That is true. Find your tribe. I miss my coordinator. I miss being a coordinator so much, because there was such an awesome little cohort of us in thick as thieves, and we still talk to this day, but it's definitely lonely at the top. So finding who you can confide in, and where those pieces are, is good. There is one other piece that I want to mention, because I don't know if they're going to mention it, but I don't want to steal their thunder in case they do. Moving. So when you accept, if you are looking for new positions, and you're looking to grow, sometimes you look out of state to grow, or sometimes you look within the same state, but moving from Northern California to Southern California, or Southern California to Northern California, or even different parts of the Bay Area, or Northern California to North California, is going to have a different culture and a different pace and a different language. And what's acceptable to one part of the state may not be like, it may not be the same way that it's done in other areas. Example, hella. Hella is not always used in Southern California. Or the word the in front of the freeway, the 5. Where does the 5 become 5 in California? Someone in like, is it like Fresno? Where does it turn into 5? I need to know. Someone else mentioned that know that they talk about you and don't think you really do anything, and that you need to not take it personally. Still working on that one. Still working on
that one too.
Anything else? Ooh, AK, starting a new job in a new profession. My skills and experience with recreation really came through. I didn't think they would transfer, but they did. Your recreation transferable skills are amazing. If you ever need help writing a resume to transfer your transferable skills, give me a call. I'll help you out.
Tamara is really good at that. She is pretty good at helping people interview for jobs and get ready, all those sorts of things. That's a Tamara skill right there.
You call me, I will bump the Rocky music in the background, and I will tell you all the amazing things about you. I got you. We got you. You're going to get that job.
It's true. It's so true, though. I'm just letting you guys know. Tamara is that person. This is why I call Tamara on a regular basis. We pump each other up. So,
and Adam listens to me cry. So it's a great relationship, really. It's a really good relationship.
You don't cry that often, by the way. Not like this morning. Oh my gosh.
No, this morning was sobbing. That was a great keynote. Coming in as new manager, connect early and often with staff. That one is said by an amazing assistant director out of the city of Pleasanton. Connect early and often with staff, especially if your staff have different schedules or if they're different sites. I have staff that at one point worked at 3 different sites. Now everyone works at home, so I send them gifts in the morning. They're okay with that. We've discussed this. To check in, we check in daily, on a daily basis. I think I mentioned that in my communication. I send a daily email to staff, just letting them know where I am, what meetings I have, what's on the docket, but also what do they need support with. Oftentimes they will send me an email back saying, you still need to respond to that email. And you know what? I appreciate that, because they just get buried. They get all the way down and buried. So figuring out that one.
That's good. That's a nice thing.
Yeah. And then you get like gifts. I sent my staff a thank you this morning. Took our things. Ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on. I can talk about this. I'm like, man, this is pretty good stuff.
Where do you find the time to your team? Honestly, it's the first thing I do every morning. I will come in, open up my email, send a good morning email to staff. Good morning, and it's short. It's really short. I don't think any of my team is on the call, but it is really, really short. And it's good morning. I'm working on site today. I've got a couple of meetings. Here's what I'm working on. Let me know how I can support you. Or good morning. I'm working remotely today. I won't use their names. So I'll use my family because I can't think of other names. Chad, I've got an email for you that's in waiting. And Nora, you've got an appointment with me this afternoon. Sorry, that was really weird to use my family. But I think it's important to do that. We have to, I say have to, but it's a requirement right now under our pandemic flu policy to check in with staff every day. But honestly, it's been the best. And then here's the other part. The expectation is staff has to respond to that email. So that's the closing the loop of it. It's something for me to just send it, but closing the loop, and this is my big pet peeve, is, and I shared this with staff, is that you have to respond back to an email I sent, even if it's a thanks, or so I know that you had eyes on it. And especially morning check-ins, I want to make sure everyone is well and doing okay, but also that if they have something that they're struggling with, that I can know where it is and where we need to kind of map that out.
Good. Well, that leads us into our next topic.
It
actually,
really
Tamara,
does.
I love that you started with that, where your expectations from your staff be able to respond, and that they know that what that expectation is, right? So the next lesson that that we've really learned is how to set expectations with your staff and how to set expectations with yourself and make sure that those are really clear. And that's definitely through personalities. Everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different way of working. Everybody has a different way of doing things. And the key is that you talk it out with your staff, that you find out how it is that you work best, how it is that, if I expect people to email me back and I don't tell them that specifically, or I do not make it clear that I expect them to email me back, I could be sitting over here in the corner and grumbling because I'm like, oh, well, this person's emailing back. I don't know what they're doing. They're sitting at home working remote, not watching TV and drinking their coffee. It's those things that I think are really important to be able to create those expectations. Like, what if you want them to do something, you have to make sure that it's very clear. And especially as a supervisor, I've learned that over and over and over again. If I am not clear on what it is that the expectation is, or what that box or those boundaries or the goals are going to end up being, that obviously they can't meet that, and that's a failure on my part to be able to not tell them what it is that we're trying to accomplish or what we're trying to be able to do here, and or whether that's my insecurities or unsureness.
An agency I worked for, the city administration had a huge turnover of the executive level team. It just happened through recidivism, new hires, retirements, etc. And so the city administrator actually wrote out his expectations, and it said expectations for managers. It sounds so silly, I promise you, but it was something that every manager at the executive level got. It was very clearly laid out. This is what I expect. This is how I want reports. This is how I see the communication going. If you need something, please do it this way. Here's how reports are written. And what I liked about it, because then it was shared with us, I was a supervisor at the time, but then it was shared with us, and there was no questions about who was responsible for which part. I knew when reports were due. We knew we knew how to communicate up the chain. We knew that we were to communicate up the chain and not leapfrog. And it was just set very clearly. So, and then when I came to Pleasanton, that was also given by our assistant director to all of our teams and just laid out very clearly, these are what I expect. And my expectations aligned with her expectations. And it's always joyful when your expectations can align. And then you're able, when presented correctly, you can point back in that direction. I share this because even though it sounds so like, well, of course you're going to have expectations, but can you actually name what your expectations are? Mine live on a Post-it on my on my computer, and it's shared with staff. We talk about it quarterly. Or when things kind of fall by the wayside, it's just a reminder, these are what I expect for it. And it's just a tightening up so that way the organization can continue to move forward. And then you don't have to move forward with other consequences. So if someone's not responding to an email, if someone's not communicating clearly every day, or they don't know what their tone is saying about them. Tone's a big thing for me. Then that's when you start to have friction, and then you may have discipline and personnel issues. And to be really honest, those are not one of our top 5.
They're not one of our top 5.
Discipline is not one of our top 5.
Yeah, well, we're still working through those.
Yeah.
we don't have anything good to talk about on that end.
We're helping you to stay away from them. So the top 5 things we wish in management was the boundaries and expectations.
Exactly. Well, and I think it's really good to be able to make sure that they're clear. So that way your staff and yourself are going to avoid those pet peeves that you have. It's like somebody's going to be doing something every single day that annoys you or pesters you or bothers you in some way. It's like, just be clear, just communicate that. To make sure that they have a good understanding of it. I think that's really cool. I always think of like the unwritten rules in baseball, and my buddy Andrew we can all go through the unwritten rules of baseball. Don't swing at a pitch when you're. I mean, come on, it's like there's so many unwritten rules, but it's really important that we get through. You make those clear and you put those down and make sure that your staff know what your expectations are and what there's those things that drive you nuts. And so. A lot of times we don't share those, and we don't say what those unwritten rules are, even within our culture, within our organization. But they're there. People know that they're there. People know what they are. And so I don't think it hurts to be able to write them down, to be able to make sure that everybody is on the same page and successful.
I have a toddler. She's 3. We go through boundaries every day. And do you know why people test boundaries? Oh, can I tell you the story? This is a great story. Folks test boundaries because it's called the roller coaster test. So you get in, everyone come with me, pretend that there's no pandemic, jump into your favorite roller coaster, and this one happens to have a top pullover. Grab that top pullover and pull it all the way down in front and have it touch your chest, right? Now, what's the first thing you do after you pulled it all the way down in your chest and make sure it's secure? Somebody yell it. You pull it up. Why the heck do we pull it up? Why do we do that? Are we expecting for it to fly off? Do we want it to move even 1 inch? Heck no. But why do we do it? We are testing. We don't want to die. That is correct, Vincent. Vincent wins. He's the winner for the next 2 minutes. We don't want to die. We do not want that thing to move, but we do it because we're testing it to make sure it works. So would it be uncommon that once you set out your expectations and you've very clearly written it out, that someone's going to push that boundary? Heck yes. Why? They want to see if you're serious. Did you catch it? Did you see it? And then they going to do it again? What's your reaction? How do you hold up? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to have a toddler. I'm exhausted and she's not even here. I could feel her. But to have a good staff that helps you, that supports you, that you want to work with, it takes work to grow and to help them understand what you want for them. So create those boundaries and then help to give those boundaries there. If you want help and support in that area, chat with your manager, chat with your supervisor, see, are there certain areas, and be open and honest for feedback. Like, that's the important part too. Is there an area that you need to help your staff grow, and could a boundary be helpful?
I love that story, Tamara.
That's such a good one.
You know what? I'll tell you what, it's not just toddlers. As they continue to grow up, they'll keep testing those boundaries. So good luck with that. Yeah.
I hate roller coasters.
Yeah.
Just on the merry-go-round.
My 6 and 9-year-olds are still driving me bonkers. Mine's texting me right now from school. Well, she's done with school now, but she was texting me. I can't get my homework done. I'm like, I'm in a meeting, kid. Come on.
I don't know why you can't get your homework done.
Some important things here. So. All right. Anyways, moving on. So the next lesson of what we've learned is that all of your staff, and we've talked about this before, is that staff personalities, man, they can be a doozy. That is for sure. And every person that you've ever worked with has their own way of doing things, has their own style, wants to make their mark on the world, which is great. And we really want to encourage that. But really the key is that, as a supervisor, how do you work with that personality? How do you work with that person? There's no one cookie cutter style as a manager that will say, you know what, this is my style and this is what I'm going to fit onto every single person that you work with. We all know that definitely does not work for part-time staff, especially our younger teenagers. They have lots of different ways of reacting, interacting, protracting. I mean, lots of things in those senses. So staff personality is one of those great things that we want to be able to recognize that who you have working with you. And if you can't recognize it, obviously you need to be able to create those relationships with those people and find a way to be able to create that mutual respect and find ways to be able to work together within your own quirks and your own personalities and the fun ways that we do things and the things that drive us nuts and all those sorts of things. Every day can be a little bit different too.
So I do want to share 2 things about this. Last night we had a tree lighting, and Santa was our 2 previous Santas were in Arizona. Couldn't use them. So we had to find a Santa on the fly. I have a point, I promise. The Santa that we ended up using, it was his first time being Santa in such a big scale. And he naturally is a little bit of more shy person and a more reserved personality. You see where I'm going here, right? And so as he's coming and making his grand entrance, the grand entrance to light the tree, his response is, ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. And he was very soft-spoken Santa, very, very kind man. And one of the staff come up to me and they said, he's not very outgoing, is he? And I said, well, our other 2 Santas were in Arizona and we are filming this on a Monday. I said, but what's important is that the community sees that and children see that there's lots of different Santas. Like there's lots of different kids. There's shy kids and there's not shy kids and there's loud and there's quiet. And I say that in terms of your staff, that it's important to know that you have to have this blend of personalities on your team. This person who I supervise right now, he is a very quiet, very, very quiet man. I am not a quiet person. He's a very quiet man. So when we first had to start our relationship, I had to pretend that I had to match the energy in the room. And that is, if you're writing nothing else down, write this down, match the energy in the room. So stop, pause when you walk into a door and match the energy in the room. Every time we met, we've gotten better, and I've grown and he's grown. We've kind of seen each other where we are, so we can, be our authentic selves now, and he sees where we are together. But I will tell you this much, he's the person who ran last night's tree lighting, and if it was me, I would have been all over the place, but he had the best personality for what he was doing. And so really trusting that your team and your staff are where they are because they were meant to be there, and helping for them to leverage that into their position. Perhaps they're working with a population that needs a more reserved person. He works in theater. He needs to be a reserved person to work in theater with so many different user groups because those personalities are so different. The other piece that I wanted to share is that coming into my agency, my team is the longest team that's been working in the department. They've all, the shortest term person there was 11 years. So 11, 20, and 36 years collectively. So together, my team is ready to retire. All three, if they were to add together their years of service together, they are all ready. They think they've been with the agency for 55 years altogether. And that's a lot for a brand new person who knows nothing about the organization to walk into. And you want to talk about the tribal knowledge that I entered into, the institutional knowledge that had existed. We have this chair here because on Thursdays at 3 p.m., the roof leaks when it rains from the west. I would never know that information. And so really just understanding that their personalities, their tenure there is something to match and just something to respect as you walk in, and finding ways and gaining their trust and earning their rapport at a pace. And it may be slower than what you think it is. My team likes tables and chairs being moved, as we all do in recreation. You move a table and chair at an event, you are in for life. You hauled something across the floor wearing heels, yes, you are our people. And so that's the folks that we have.
Very good. All right, we want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, last lesson that well, this is definitely one that I'm learning still. And I'm still not very good at this. Is probably one of my weaknesses right here is appreciation for staff and showing your appreciation for staff. And then, I think it was a little bit easier when I was working with my part-timers, especially like my summer camp staff. You got a good group. You so ingrained. You're with everybody every single day. It's really easy to be able to show appreciation. But when I'm working with my staff on a regular basis, full-time staff, you are doing so many different things and pushing so many different buttons and going so many different directions that sometimes it's hard to be able to say, yes, good job. Thank you very much for doing that. If you can't see it behind me, but on my board behind me, I track all of our wins. And so that's what we call it in our team. We track our wins, how many things that we've done well, and what are we crossing off the list that, the council is going to recognize, or that our commission is going to be able to recognize, our community is really recognizing for us. And, we will show appreciation for the things that we've done, but also is showing appreciation for the continued work that they do on a daily basis. Through this pandemic, it's been really difficult for all of us in a number of different ways, but trying to be able to show appreciation through, whether it's when we're in the office, donuts or coffee or, little cards of appreciation, those sorts of things. It's something that I'm still learning and still trying to get through. I know Tamara is really good at this because she thinks about it and it's on the top of her head. But I know that for me, I think it's my personality too, though. I'm production oriented. We try and get a lot of things taken care of. But one of the things we got to do is celebrate what we do and celebrate those wins. And that's one thing I'm definitely learning and working on as well.
I have a great manager who buys me coffee, and she knows that coffee is my love language, but coffee is not everyone's love language. And sometimes people actually don't like treats. They're working towards their own health and fitness goals or health goals. And so food is not always, it's really easy to rely on or bring in donuts, but especially right now, it would be really hard for me to bring in donuts to the office and drop some off at everybody's house, though I've tried. But I think it's important to ask your staff when you have your one-on-one, how do you like to be appreciated? And be upfront. Do you like coffees? Do you like gift cards? How do you like to be recognized? As more work becomes done and things do get sushi from Vincent, as you do get more wins and they're celebrated, is your employee going to like being called out during an all citywide staff meeting where they have to come up to the room and accept flowers, or are they going to be completely mortified and they would have benefited from a note? That is probably some of the best advice that I've ever been told, is to figure out how your staff like to be supervised, and not to guess, but actually to ask them. Make it a part of your one-on-one. Make it a part of your quarterly check-ins, and ask, how are you feeling appreciated at work? What could I be doing to let you feel appreciated? My name is Tamara. I'm a millennial, so sometimes maybe I'm leaning with my millennial foot, but I don't know anyone who hasn't valued hearing, I think you're doing a great job and thanks for being here today. Or, I really appreciate you for doing X, Y, Z. Or, I know you may not get recognized for it publicly, but I see it and I'm grateful you're on our team. So I think that part, simply put, find out. Also, if you want to, find out what your supervisor likes, the one who supervises you. How do you like to be recognized? You want to talk about being lonely at the top? It's like just like the air up on Everest, the appreciation is thin up there. And so if you get a chance just to tell your boss thank you, sometimes thank yous go up. And so it's so just kind of keeping that in mind too.
For sure. And
We
Chelsea,
yeah, go ahead.
In the chat, you ask every staff at the beginning of each summer session what their workplace appreciation language is, so we can recognize them. That's a great idea. That communication and talking to your staff and recognizing them in the way that they want to be recognized. I can't tell you how many times that I've actually had somebody, tell me like they do not want to go up on stage. They do not want to be the person who is recognized in front of the entire group. A pure, simple thank you little note helps them out, and that's everybody's personalities and knowing who you have within your group. And you don't want to mortify that one person who is scared of being in front of everybody. You do not want to definitely do that. So find what works best for them, for sure.
The other piece, birthdays, celebrations, anniversaries, having a baby, things like that. And, Boss's Day. Also leaning on what does your organization do? I worked with, it was tiny, small city, 5 people. It was so little. We fit all in a minivan. It was adorable. We had something called the Sunshine Club, and every quarter we put in $20. And from that $20, we celebrated a birthday for the folks that were there, and there would generally be like another event. And so everyone put in $20, and on your birthday, and it was very clear, you get like a root beer float, or you can get a cake. And we all stopped and spent 30 minutes recognizing that it was your birthday in a very subdued way. Once again, there's only 5 people. And it felt nice, and yet it didn't feel obligated. Sometimes in recognition, not many departments have a social budget to do this out of, and so it comes out of pockets. And so where does that live? Is that something your agency is comfortable with? Is that something you're comfortable with? What are those boundaries too? So it's a lot of fun to be the one that brings donuts every week, but where does that kind of fall, and how does that fit?
Very good. All right. So one of the things, so those are the 5 kind of lessons that we've learned as we have gone through our career, and things that we struggled with or have learned along the way that we get to share with you today. And a lot of as we've gone through these lessons, it's a lot about self-reflection, about learning about who you are as a manager and what your management style is, and how do you improve as a manager on a regular basis. I'm going to put in the chat, I have a link for a management, basically a self-quiz is what it is. I took this one. I actually thought it was pretty interesting just to be able to see, what are some areas that are good and some areas that are bad. Apparently, I need to work on my conflict resolution skills or conflict avoidance things. That's a whole different game. That's a whole different topic. That's why it's not even in this list. So we're gonna figure that one out later on. But it's really good. I think it's really good as a manager to be able to see who you are, what you're doing, continue to learn, and see what you need to do to be able to get better on a regular basis. So we put a little tool in there for you. It is free. Have some fun on it. It's got some links and some information for you to be able to use there. Let's see. You have anything to add on that, Tam?
Nothing to add on that one. I'm ready to jump down.
Go
Go
for
5.
it.
So we've chatted about this a lot, being a manager, being a supervisor, taking that next level, that it's lonely at the top, but it's rewarding. Just like Angela mentioned to say this morning, it's a cloud weighs 1 million pounds. So are you ready to have a cloud look like it weighs 1 million pounds, but not? And so the question is, what do you do and when you're ready to apply for that next level? So when do you apply? And the answer is you always apply. You call me, I'll give you the confidence, we're going to get it done, but you do your homework. You do your homework about the agency, you do your pre-interviews, you get it assessed, you figure out their community, look through their activity guide, but you're also, especially at the assistant director, manager level, you want to understand the relationship with council and the city manager and the department. What are the goals for that department for the next 5 to 10 years? If you're applying for a team supervisor position and you want to ask, like, is there a new facility coming in? Will I be overseeing that new facility? Does that change your workload? And are you comfortable with taking on that extra workload based on whatever your personal goals are as well during that time? But it's also about looking at the longevity that you see yourself being with that agency and seeing your growth there. Are there opportunities there for you to grow beyond where you are, whether it's lateral move or moving up? Or is that something that you're looking for the agency to kind of map out for you? Like Adam said, there's a lot of flexibility in manager and supervisor, assistant director and director jobs because the needs of the organization is what really dictates that work. I will say this last one is apply. Always apply. You should always apply. You will never get the experience unless you apply. No one goes, bing, magically you have all the powers and you are now completely ready for that next position. But going through the application process, going through the vetting process and understanding that agency will give you a sense to determine if this is a good fit for you to apply. Once again, call me, reach out to me. I will help you and I can help and give you the confidence to take that next step. And I'll share this part. I was in Los Altos in from 2007 to 2014. During that time, the recession hit. There was only one supervisor job that opened up in my area. One supervisor job because everything was frozen. So for 7 years, I had no other opportunity to move up. But bet your bottom dollar, I applied for that supervisor job. I did not get it, but that was okay. I wasn't anticipating that I was getting it. I enjoyed being a coordinator. I liked that work I was doing. But if I didn't apply, then I wouldn't have been ready to apply for my next supervisor job. And I wouldn't have had that experience of going through that interview process. So just remembering those pieces, that sometimes it's not always about getting the interview or getting the job, it's about going through that process so you can be seen and you can go into those panels and hone your interview skills. Adam?
I agree with you on that one. So yeah, lots of interviews. And
I tell Adam that all the time. Hey, did you see this job? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I haven't taken your advice very well lately.
You don't, but that's okay. But I'm going to encourage you.
It's okay.
I hope Kathy's not on the call. Or Brad. Sorry, guys.
That's right. Tamara, you put some stuff in the chat box for surveys and such?
Popped our survey. So general sessions. Oh, wait, hold on. Everybody, nobody moves. Nobody move. Nobody move.
Is that the wrong survey?
No, I have to do a screenshot of everybody.
Oh.
I'm only in charge of the conference. It's like, everyone stay still. Try, snip, and sketch. Smile. 1. I will tell you.
Beautiful people here.
Oh my God, my face is looking up during that one. That's hilarious. 1.
You gotta work on this apparently, Tam. You gotta work on taking good pictures of people.
And 2, hang on 1 second. Please hold. You guys are doing so good.
And this will get put up on the Facebook page later, right?
No. This is how we are verifying that you were in the session. It's very scientific. I know. Okay, you're all good.
Good job on the dual roles today.
Oh, we are double dipping. We're double dipping. So make sure you do your sessions. We would love feedback. This is truly just a conversation and a peek, and we'd love if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Well, I'm happy to stick around. But the CEUs, if you want CEUs, you got to fill out the CEU one. Help me out there.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? Oh, you can't minimize when you're in Zoom. That's good to know.
Pushing buttons.
I'm story Millie.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you hanging out with us for this afternoon, having a little conversation with Tamara and I. We always enjoy it.
I hope you have a great day. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll stay around for a little bit in case you want to chat one-on-one.
Yeah, I can't stay around too long. I got another call I got to get to.
I'll stick around.
Good job, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.